We're going to go over 10 financial habits today to improve your financial mindset, which in turn improves your finances. I just want to be clear. I believe that these are the habits and tips that will help people get into the right financial mindset and help them to improve their finances. However, I have not nailed down every single one of these. I am not an expert. I am not killing it in all of these categories. So this list is essentially notes to self of things that I've already started that I want to continue to do, or things that I want to start in the future and hopefully improve upon. So maybe you can take one or two of these things, adopt them into your own life, and possibly see improvement. Okay, let's get into it. And before we start, this is not part of the 10, but I just want to say off the bat, the number one rule if you want to improve your finances is to automate your investments and your savings. And this is said by any financial expert that you listen to, that you talk to, you see on the internet, that you watch on YouTube. They all say automate your savings so you don't have to think about it. It's easy. It automatically comes out. So if you're not doing that, definitely do that. But I just want to say throughout my entire life, up until I started this journey, I didn't do that. I didn't automate my savings. I knew about it. I knew I should have, but out of procrastination and laziness and carelessness, I did not do that. Honestly, I thought it would just be like difficult, and I just didn't want to go through like the 20 minutes of setting up a separate portion of my check going into a savings. It actually, in reality, took me like 5 minutes, but I didn't even want to do that. So I'm just reinforcing that. If you know you need to do that, but you haven't, go do it. Do it in the next day or two, set it up, make sure your savings is automated. All right, now let's get into the top 10. Number 1 is the future you test. When you go to make a purchase, think about what the future you in 5 years would think about that purchase. The problem that I have always made is that we only think about right now. We're never actually thinking about the future. And even if I think about the future a little bit, I don't like dig in to actually really investigate it for a few minutes and think about what my future self in 5 years would think about the purchase that I'm making today. But if I actually think about it, not necessarily now, because I'm not spending like I used to. But if this was last year and I had to face my future self 5 years from now and explain my spending choices, that person 5 years from now would be so mad and disappointed, to say the least. Like, that's an understatement. She would be livid. When I think about my future self 5 years from now, when I face her and show her everything that I've purchased and what I'm saving and budgeting, I think she'll be really happy. I think I am making positive choices to improve my future. And I don't think she'll be disappointed anymore. In fact, I think she'll be really grateful for the steps that I'm taking now and the effort I'm taking now. Number 2, and I cannot say this enough, I wholeheartedly believe that it is so important to consume at least 5 to 10 minutes of financial education daily. And that can be through a podcast, through a YouTube video, through a book, through an article. I probably consume about an hour a day of it, sometimes even more, definitely more on the weekends. But the goal is to change what you're feeding your brain. If you're constantly watching people who are showcasing products and cars and clothes and shoes and trips, then your brain starts to think, oh, I need that too. And so your money habits and your spending habits are influenced on what you see every day. So the goal is to lessen the amount of people you follow who are subconsciously encouraging you or intentionally encouraging you to make purchases, big or small. Instead, change that, flip that out, and find somebody who teaches about personal finance education in some niche. It doesn't really matter what it is. So you can start to reprogram your brain and think like how a financially successful person thinks. Let me move you up a little. Ooh. Not only do I listen to a lot of YouTubers and podcasters, and I read some articles, I'm subscribed to like 1 or 2 newsletters, but I also am in quite a few Reddits or subreddits focused on personal finance, on the FIRE community and personal finance. And so you just hear a lot of people's stories, and most of these people, the trend throughout is that they're all trying to achieve some sort of financial goal. And so it's a way to feed your brain with the positive things that you are trying to change right now. It's a way to not feel alone in your financial journey and to rewire the way that you think about it. If you're surrounding yourself with people, either online or in person, with people who spend a lot of money, who are careless with their finances, or who spend extravagantly on vacations, for example, then that will become the norm to you. And that's not what you want. So daily, make it a habit, if you can, to consume at least, on the very bare minimum, 5 minutes a day of personal finance education. Number 3 is to make impulse spending a game that you can win. Impulse spending happens because it's fun. I feel like I'm an expert at impulse spending. I did it my entire life, and I don't do it anymore, but I still know that feeling all too well. And you know, the dopamine rush, it feels good, it's fun to do it, but the goal, instead of focusing on that fun, the goal is to make not spending just as fun. I didn't do this when I was impulsively shopping a lot, and I wish I put this practice into place. I really don't impulse buy anymore, so I don't necessarily need this right now, but if that habit ever creeps up again, I will definitely put this into place. And that is, every time you resist the urge to impulsively buy something, take that money and put that money into a victory fund, a little fund that you have set aside. And so if you have the urge to impulsively buy on a daily basis, that was me, then if you want to buy something, let's take, for example, in my case, I've come across so many, not lately, but so many dresses and shoes that I wanted to buy. Some of them I purchased, but some of them I didn't. And so in that case, the ones that I didn't, I resisted the urge to buy. I would take that money and put it into a fund. And then at the end of every month or every quarter, what you could do with that victory fund is to put that money towards something meaningful. And so that could look like, ideally, paying off debt, putting it towards investments, or you can put it towards a big intentional purchase. And although it may be a purchase, it's something that you likely will have sat on for a long time, weighed the pros and cons, and also put money towards it to save up for it so that you're not going into debt or you're not setting yourself behind to pay for it. So number 3 is to make not spending just as fun. Try to gamify it if you can. Number 4 is to start a money regret journal. Goal here is to make your bad money decisions hurt a lot, way more than they normally would if you did not document each bad decision. Most people, including myself, over and over and over again, repeated bad financial mistakes, because if I look at myself personally, I repeated bad financial mistakes over and over and over again because I forgot how bad it felt. And then time goes on, and all you remember and all you can think about is the next item that you want to purchase and how good you will feel purchasing the item and then receiving the item. But you often forget about the pain and sacrifice you may have gone through after the dopamine crash. And so there's been so many times when I've made purchases, useless, stupid purchases, and then I did it over and over again because I was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. You know, it's fine. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And documenting it will give you a better idea of how bad you felt in the moment, especially if it was more costly. Maybe it made you tight for the week, or maybe you had to pay interest on a credit card, or maybe you added to your debt and then you feel really guilty about it. Whatever it is, track it. And you don't have to necessarily write it down by hand. You can put it in your notes app. You can send an email to yourself and create a folder where you can go back and read the emails that you sent. Send the text messages to yourself. This channel is my way of documenting my journey. If I make stupid decisions, which I think I've actually made a few on this channel, especially early on, then I'm not only making the decision and feeling bad after it, I'm also thinking about the video I'm going to create, and then I have to relive it while I tell you about the bad financial decision, and then likely go over the bad decision again when I'm reviewing the end of the month and new month budget. So it's a pretty effective way to stay accountable to yourself. The goal is to just remember to not impulsively just buy the thing, take the 5 minutes, take the 10 minutes and review what you've written down before, and you might just change your mind. The next one is look at your bank account every single morning. A lot of people, especially people in debt, I was one of them, for so long, I went months without checking my bank account because I knew I wouldn't like what I would see. I knew I wouldn't want to see what I would find in my bank account. And as time went on, it became harder and harder and worse and worse. And the fact is, they don't go away. Money problems don't go away because you're ignoring them. It's not like it's not there. It's not staying on top of mind. But the thing is, it should be on top of mind because it's pretty serious. And so if you're spending more than you make, or if you're just overspending in general, if you're not saving, or if you are in debt, the goal is actually to feel that pain because that pain will be a motivator. Go into your phone, and this is a habit I've picked up. This is what I do every day. I try to check my bank account before. I used to check social media in the morning. Now I check my bank account. Go in and check it, take a look. Where is it at? Your savings, your investment, your checking account, whatever it is. Check the transactions that happened the day prior. The first step for me, actually, if I think about it, in changing my finances was facing my finances and facing the numbers. The very first step I took in all of this, my whole personal finance journey, was sitting down with a notebook and a pen and my bank app open and going through. And it had been months before I had opened that app. Like, I let that go for a long time because I did not want to face the numbers. So then I sat down and went through all the transactions and all of my accounts, and that's what propelled me forward. That was the motivating factor. And it's just important to know, it's important to stay on top of, even if you think you know. Like, I think I know what I'm spending every day, and for the most part I do, but I still like the reminder of going into my transactions and checking every single thing and just seeing that number. It's important to monitor what goes in and what goes out. Because in the end, awareness leads to better decisions. If you don't know where you stand in your finances, then it's much easier to make bad financial decisions that will set you back or put you in debt. The next one is to try the rich people behavior experiment. This is what I mean. For my entire life, up until recently, even though I didn't think of it in this way, I actually acted like a broke person. I lived paycheck to paycheck, if that. I was impulsive driven. I was extremely reactive. I wasn't proactive in putting as much as I could into my investment accounts. I was always reacting to the situation at hand. I was never prepared for any financial issue that popped up. But what I realized is that if you start acting like somebody who is, I don't want to say wealthy, because when I say wealthy, I think of like millions and millions. But if you just start thinking about somebody who has money and who is extremely financially responsible, then you will find yourself acting in a different way. If you're wondering what somebody like that will act like, well, if you think about it, a wealthy person wouldn't panic over a sale or really any unnecessary purchases. They would know exactly where their money is going at all times. Most actually wealthy people and people who are financially well off can tell you, likely down to the cent, what's in their bank accounts, what's coming in and what's going out, specifically in detail. And for the most part, the fiscally responsible are people who they're chasing assets. They're working to build more assets and build more passive income through those assets. They're not chasing instant gratification. And for decades, that's all I chased was instant gratification. That set me back and put no more money in my pocket. And so instead of acting like somebody who is broke, try to act like somebody who is wealthy or financially well off. Just think when you're making that decision to buy the thing, whatever it is, or make the purchase, just think, would somebody who is financially smart with their money do it in this way? The next thing is something that I wish I implemented a long time ago, and that is to make spending purchases much more painful. I know for myself, I spent recklessly because it was so freaking easy. It was fast and there was very little effort or sacrifice on my part. All I had to do was scroll, click add to cart and click checkout. Most of the platforms I shopped on actually had my credit card information saved, and I shopped so much that even if they didn't have my credit card information saved, I had my credit card information saved in my head. So I didn't even have to take the extra step to get up and get my card and then come back and sit down. And to be honest, for me, that is a barrier, and it sounds so stupid, but I am out of shampoo and conditioner, and I've been out for 2 days. I have like a smidge left. I'm like scraping the bottom. And every time I think, oh, I need to buy it, I'm too lazy and I'm procrastinating too much to actually get up, go into my purse, get the card, and then make the purchase online. So the way, that was long-winded to say, to make your purchases more painful, this is what you could do. You have one bank account for the necessary items: rent, gas, utilities, food. Then you have an account for guilt-free spending. And so every single time you want to make a purchase that is unnecessary, you are forced to transfer money from your main checking account to guilt-free spending. So you might still make that purchase, but at least that time in between gives you a few more steps and a few more seconds to think, do I really need this item? Because you're going in there, you're seeing the dollar amount in your main bank account, your main checking account, and you realize that you are taking from that fund to purchase something that is unnecessary. And so you're actually feeling that pain instead of just swiping a debit card or swiping a credit card. The next one is to calculate how many life hours that purchase has cost you. Because you're not just trading money, you're also trading time. And so when you buy something, you're actually trading hours of your life to afford that thing. And so if you think, for example, like let's just say I make $40 an hour and my boyfriend and I go out to dinner, the average dinner for us is around like $120, $130. So if I think about it, I'm sacrificing 3 hours of my life for the dinner. And in some cases, this might be still worth it to you, but in some cases it might not be. And I think it can be really useful to go through that exercise. I'm actually starting to read Oliver Burkeman's book. I think it's 4,000 Hours. And I'm very early on in the book, so I haven't gotten very far. But in it, he talks about how the average person only has 4,000 hours to live. 4,000 hours? Is it 4,000 hours? Yeah, I think it's hours, 4,000 hours to live. And so if you think about it that way, we're kind of all on limited time. And so do you want to trade 3 hours for that dinner? Maybe, but maybe not. If I think about a pair of boots that I purchased, I freaking love my boots. I purchased them last year before I started this. They're great. I love them so much. I'm happy every single time I wear them. But they were expensive. And if I think about it now, I probably chose to sacrifice about 12 to 14 hours of my life to buy those boots. And if I don't know that I would make that purchase now. I don't know that I would make that sacrifice, maybe in the future, but right now I wouldn't do it. So calculate how many hours you'd have to work to afford that thing, and then ask yourself if the purchase is worth it or not. What I've come to learn is that changing my financial situation isn't about just making more money. It's actually a little deeper than that. It's about reprogramming the way that I think, act, and feel around money. It's about introducing new habits to set me up for success. So I think that aside from the very obvious of having a budget, sticking to it daily, setting up automatic savings, okay? Those are like bare bones, look at your finances every day, set up a clear budget, and make sure you have automatic savings lined up. And then after you've tackled that and after you have that nailed down, figure out 1 or 2 other habits that you can put in place to help you ensure success. And these are just a few that I came up with. There's so many, and if you follow Dave Ramsey or Ramit Sethi or the Money Guys or anybody else, you'll be bombarded by tips and habits and things you can do. And I just want to actually say one more thing. I coach a lot of real estate agents on marketing and social media. And the one thing I've really been hammering home with them is that they are bombarded by all the different marketing tactics they can use to bring in sales and to bring in leads. And because of that, they tend to do everything at once, get overwhelmed, and then just stop. Or there's so much they actually don't even know where to start. And then they just like go blank and they don't do anything. And that can be the same thing with personal finance, is that there's so many tips out there and there's so many habits out there that all of a sudden when you're actually faced with your own finances and you're looking at the numbers, you're like, what the hell do? I have no idea. And so my suggestion to them and my suggestion to you and to myself is to, again, bare bones, get a budgeting app, or just find a budgeting method that you will stick to long term, automate savings, and then choose 1 to 2 habits that you can successfully implement into your life and set everything else aside. Don't think about anything else. Just stick with those 2, stick with budgeting, stick with saving, and on a long enough time frame, your life will look completely different. And mine. I think that's the goal. Okay. That's it for today. I will talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.